Has a man short, wants to go deep, wide open. Unbelievable touchdown, Miami! You're kidding me.
The Cardiac Canes did it again. Now we hop on board the Wayback Machine to renew one of college football's most intense rivalries. 2 words, Notre Dame. Both teams are resurgent at just the right time.
It's time to put your foot on the gas and get better right now. Ain't no time to feel good about yourself and be relieved. It's time to move on.
The Noles have 5 scalps, but today they run into a pack of wolves that are hungry, angry, and piling up the yards. It's chaos in the Coastal. Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech have dominated, but they look very vulnerable. Who will step up and play their way to Charlotte? The debate will be intense on ACC Kickoff Live.
Open at the 10, at the 5. Touchdown.
It's time to begin, isn't it? The first Saturday in October. Great day for college football. I'm Jeff Fischel. With me, former NFL and Georgia Tech running back Dorsey Levens. And look who's here. After a couple of weeks gone, Riley Skinner is back.
Glad to be back. Missed you guys.
We got the band back together. It's great stuff. Hey, first let's talk about what we learned last week, Dorsey.
Last week we learned defense was optional. A lot of yards gained last week, a lot of points scored. Let's see if the defenses exercise their option to actually show up and play some sound defense today.
I'm with you. That defense was abysmal last week, really throughout the entire country. It was crazy. But I'm looking forward to now the rest of the season. We're getting into conference play. We got 5 in-conference games this weekend, and now you get to the point where every weekend matters. It's conference going against each other, and they're all trying to get to Charlotte. And I'm just ready to see that some of the non-conferences were fun, but it's all ACC for now.
Yeah, 5 conference games today. Good time to take a look at the ACC standings. You have Florida State and Clemson playing as well as they should. After that, the conference is madness. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. In the Atlantic, the Seminoles are 2-0 in the ACC. NC State could find itself 0-2 if it loses to Florida State. Maryland opens conference play today. In the Coastal, look at Miami, 3-0, including those 2 improbable finishes the past 2 weeks. Virginia Tech and Duke both 1-0. Georgia Tech is reeling. 2 overtime losses in the ACC, and that disaster last week against Middle Tennessee. Okay, time now for the ACC buzz, and that means it's time for K-Nash Sports. Kelly Nash. Kelly, what's trending right now?
Thanks, Jeff. Well, all eyes will be on Miami QB Stephen Morris after his record-setting performance last week against NC State. 566 passing yards. He'll be looking to avoid a strong Notre Dame pass rush led by none other than Manti Te'o. And a huge story broke out overnight out of Wake Forest. Coach Jim Grobe has suspended 6 football players. 4 of those are starters for an undisclosed violation of team rules. And lastly, Syracuse and Pitt faced off last night in a final meeting between rivals at the Big East. They'll, of course, join the ACC next summer.
Yeah, in fact, those teams will play yearly in the ACC. That's part of the new arrangement with schedules. We'll talk about that later. Kelly, thank you. Here are the ranked teams and their Saturday menu brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Dorsey, Clemson hosting your Yellow Jackets. Kelly Nash, do you want to jump in? No. Dorsey.
If Georgia Tech doesn't play better than they did last week, especially on defense, they could be in for a very long day facing a very explosive Clemson offense.
Florida State trying to keep its record perfect, Riley, at NC State.
This game's going to be won or lost in the trenches with NC State's offensive line needs to show up and give Mike Glennon some time if they're going to want any shot at this lethal Florida State defense.
And Miami at Notre Dame. At Soldier Field in Chicago. What a great venue. Stephen Morris has thrown for 1,000 yards the past 2 weeks. But tonight, going against a Notre Dame defense that is giving up just 9 points a game, our Rachel Klein is in Chicago with more.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm here with Miami head coach Al Golden. And Coach, you're coming off a very emotional and thrilling game against NC State overtime. How do you reset now facing a nationally ranked Notre Dame team?
I think our guys have been able to keep their focus. The last 2 games have been very emotional for us. So we've had good leadership. We've been just staying with the process, and I think we have a good focus right now coming into our game tomorrow night with Notre Dame.
And your offense been putting up some impressive numbers. Stephen Morris with his career day last week. How do you continue to carry on that momentum against one of the top defenses in the country?
Stephen's doing a great job just relaxing and taking what the defense has given. This is obviously going to be our stiffest task of the year, as well as Notre Dame's playing on defense. But we also think, we can have a couple guys join the party for us on offense. The tight ends need to step up, play a little bit better. We can get the ball to Randy Johnson a little bit more. So we do think there's room for improvement from our standpoint.
Now, when you look at the film, what about Notre Dame's run game gives you the most concern?
Well, I think they have 3 excellent running backs, and that in combination with a real veteran line, I think that's the biggest thing. They're not as long up front as some of the Notre Dame teams of the past, but they're excellent in zone blocking. They're able to get up to the second level, and they're a very rugged group. So that's what poses the most threat for us.
All right, now you're playing in a different atmosphere, Soldier Field, more than 60,000 fans. How do you prepare your team for a game in that type of situation?
We really don't worry about it much. At the end of the day, it's 2 acres and a ball for us. That's all we're going to be focused on. Everything else is just a show at this point. And for us, we got to play Miami Hurricane football for 60 minutes. We're playing a top 10 team. We know how good they are, and now we just got to go out and challenge them.
Well, that Miami football has been working for you so far, so we wish you luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thanks so much. All right, Jeff, back to you.
Rachel, thank you. The Hurricanes are like a Rorschach test. On one hand, they're 4-1. The other hand, they could very easily be 2-3 after those past 2-week games. On one hand, the defense has really struggled. On the other hand, the offense, led by Stephen Morris, has been fantastic. So, Dorsey, what do you see when you see Miami, and can this team beat Notre Dame?
I think they can beat Notre Dame. What I see when I look at Miami is Stephen Morris and the maturation process. Over the last 2 games, he's had career highs in both of them. 1,260 yards over the last 2 games of total offense, which is the best in college football. He's cool, calm, collected back there in the pocket. Watch his footwork. Keep an eye on it, how he maneuvers and slides back and forth to avoid the defense and give him some extra time to throw the ball downfield with some of those explosive receivers he has on the outside, and Phillip Dorsett, Allen Hurns, Rashawn Scott. And let's not forget about the running backs, my boys, Mike James and Duke Johnson.
Or as Coach Golden likes to say, Randy Johnson. I like that. Real name. I like that too. All right, now as good as Stephen Morris has been, Riley, he hasn't had to deal with a one-man wrecking crew like Manti Te'o.
No, he hasn't. Manti Te'o leads this Notre Dame defense that has not allowed a rushing touchdown. I mean, they're a ball-hawking defense that creates a lot of turnovers. They're +9 right now on the turnover margin. And against Michigan, 6 turnovers against Denard Robinson. So these guys know how to get the ball in their hands. I think Stephen Morris, like you talked about, Dorsey, they need to remember they've got Duke Johnson and Mike James. They don't want to be one-dimensional. I know they've thrown the ball well lately, but they started off running the ball well in the beginning of the season. They need to kind of find a good rhythm and get that kind of dual threat going, because they got to find a way to put Notre Dame's defense on their heels.
It has been a very good defense. Te'o leading the way, leading the team in interceptions, tackles, and wreaking havoc. And, of course, we'll talk more about the history of this game, the great rivalry over the years, coming up later in the show. But first, as good as Notre Dame's defense has been, Florida State's has been even better. Number 3 in the country. That's despite losing Brandon Jenkins for the season. Today, taking on Mike Glennon and NC State. Glennon, 440 yards passing last week. That's a career best. But 3 O-line starters are out with injuries. It will be a tough test for the Wolfpack.
I'm glad Jenkins ain't coming against us. I mean, I'm sorry that he's hurt, but that guy was an incredible pass rusher, and he's out for the year. But the next guy up ain't too bad either. This guy is real fast off the edge, both their ends. The German's name? Warner. He's real good. He's a speed guy, watches the snap. As soon as the ball moves, he's off the ball. So we have to time up the snap counter. They're going to be right by us if we don't.
Glennon's a fabulous player. I mean, he can reach all parts of the field, great arm strength, terrific arm talent. I mean, can throw every ball. The short ball, the rhythm throw, the deep ball, the intermediate ball. I mean, he's an extremely talented guy.
I think they were going to be up for this game no matter what. No matter whether they, gave up 7 points last week or gave up 70 points. I think they're going to be up for this game no matter what. And, I think every team that we play from here on out is going to give us their A game, so we have to do the same.
Any great team can be beaten, on any given day. Anything can happen in football, and I feel like I said, we're playing home. It gives us, more advantage, and I feel like we can beat them.
Need an upset against Florida State.
I think he can. He's got the ability, but the fact is he's playing against one of the best defense in the ACC, and unfortunately that offensive line has allowed Glennon to be on his back about 15, 16 times this year. But if they can keep him clean, he can throw the ball. He's pretty good at playing a little pitch and catch. And against this Florida State defense, I think that's what you got to do is try to exploit their secondary, because they're not really giving up much ground up front with that defensive line. So I think he can, but I think it really all hinges on his offensive line.
That O-line is beat up. Of course, Bjorn Werner and Tank Carradine Dorsey probably dreaming of sacks in their sleep last night, right?
Oh, absolutely. And just for the NC State offensive lineman, the German's name is Bjorn Werner. And if you don't know it right now, you will know by the end of the day. But like you said, that offensive line has some injuries. 3 guys up there hurt. They've given up. They're last in the ACC in giving up sacks. North Carolina State is facing the team that's first in getting sacks in Florida State. So it's going to be a tough game for NC State. And like you said, Riley, it all depends on the guys up front. If they can protect Mike Glennon and not let Florida State get to him, they got a chance. But that's a real tough challenge today.
No doubt about it. NC State won't be intimidated, though. We know that over the years. It's actually battled Florida State very well when they've taken on a Florida State team that's ranked 4 times, in fact, in the last decade. The Wolfpack has beaten a ranked Seminoles team. Some of those NC State teams were great, too. And remember, they had Phillip Rivers and Russell Wilson. 2 years ago, Wilson completed a 4th down pass for a touchdown with less than 3 minutes to go for the win.
James still again with daylight. James for the end zone. Miami wins. One of the great comebacks in Miami history. The Canes keep finding a way to win, and it looks like Al Golden has found a keeper at quarterback. Stephen Morris is rewriting the record books. Look who's back. Again, Sammy Watkins is healthy, just in time for Clemson's nemesis, Georgia Tech.
David Cutcliffe sees his team go to 4-1, emerges as a surprise team in the ACC.
Some ACC fans are looking at the standings and cannot believe their eyes. Duke is 4-1. Can the Blue Devils make a run at a division title?
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
I'm Jeff Fischel. Time now for another ACC Now and Then, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. In Saturday's last-second win over NC State, Miami's Stephen Morris broke the ACC record for most passing yards in a game with 566. Morris passed Rusty LaRue of Wake Forest, who had 545 yards in 1995, also against the Wolfpack. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner, only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh,
Hello?
yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
For more info on the 6th weekend of Atlantic Coast Conference football, tune into the ACC Blitz powered by Ram. Host Tom Wormy and Coach Tommy Bowden break down today's games, and we sit down with UNC running back Giovanni Bernard. So tune in at noon to ACC Blitz powered by Ram. Check local listings for the station in your area. Okay, let's order from the rest of the Saturday menu, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Riley, Boston College taking on Army today.
Well, Boston College, this is one of the worst defenses in Army. I think all Boston College has to do, get 1 or 2 stops early against that triple option, then let Chase Reddick and Alex Amanon go to work.
Dorsey, yes, Virginia. Duke is 4-1.
I'm going to give the nod to Virginia. Phillip Sims is going to give the team a much-needed spark at quarterback. The question is, can he protect the ball? That's the same thing that landed quarterback Michael Rocco on the sideline. That's the big question.
Riley, your Demon Deacs visit the Terps.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they lost 4 of their starters. Bad news for the the Deacons. Tanner's going to have to get help somewhere in order to get a win against Maryland, whose defense has played pretty well.
Yeah, and in Chapel Hill, the riddle versus the enigma. Virginia Tech, can this offense score consistently? Is the defense ever going to perform up to expectations? North Carolina, were the last 2 weeks the real Tar Heels, or is this still the team that couldn't win close ones against Wake and Louisville? Steve Martin and Dave Archer have a preview.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And there's a tribute to the legendary running back in North Carolina history, Charlie Choo Choo Justice, who played, coincidentally, his first game ever in a North Carolina uniform against the Virginia Tech Hokies. And that's who we've got today, Virginia Tech and North Carolina. And Dave, when you take a look at these two teams, Virginia Tech comes in here at 3-2, and their quarterback Logan Thomas talked this week to us, and maybe is taking too much blame for what's going on at Virginia Tech.
It's been a tough start for Virginia Tech and Logan Thomas. Now they've lost 2 games to 2 Big East opponents, and they turned the football over a little bit too much. But Logan Thomas lost his top 2 receivers a year ago. He's got 8 TDs already this year throwing the football. But here's what he does best. He's a dual threat guy, big guy, 6'6", 245 pounds. He'll pound the ball at you. Lost their top 2 receivers, lost their top rusher. He's had to shoulder the load.
And, of course, on the other side, of course, North Carolina will have their full complement of veteran running backs behind a very good quarterback by the name of Bryn Renner, who seems to be adjusting to what Larry Fedora wants him to do.
Well, they want to go fast, Steve, and going fast means Bryn Renner's got to be fast. Now, can't play so fast he doesn't see what's going on. He's done a nice job of dissecting defenses this year, over 1,400 yards passing. He's thrown 14 touchdowns. Now, he set a record a year ago for North Carolina with 26 touchdown passes. He's well on his way to breaking that mark today, but he's the key to what they're going to do offensively.
Both of these quarterbacks from the state of Virginia, they play golf, and they did so at the ACC football kickoff. There's Logan Thomas getting one off the tee and working around the greens, and Bryn Renner pretty good off the tee himself, Jeff.
I didn't realize we were going to break down golf as well. It's a kind of a twofer there, football and golf. Guys, thank you. All right, we'll talk more about that game later. Repeat after me. Duke is 4-1. Yes, Duke is 4-1, taking on Virginia today. Cavs coach Mike London finally pulled the trigger. Phillip Sims is in at quarterback. Michael Rocco is out. All right, Riley, what do you think of the decision to make the change?
I like the decision, but if you're Mike London, what you want to see out of Phillip Sims coming into this game is management of the game, clock management, running the offense the way he wants, and what he's done so far in mop-up duty, no turnovers. That's what really put Mike Rocco on the bench, was his turnovers, and they need Phillip Sims to come in, throw the ball efficiently. Just don't try to do too much. Let the playmakers get the ball and do what they do. He just needs to manage the game and kind of have that, be that new spark for this stagnant Virginia offense.
As for Duke, just when it seemed like everything was going well, quarterback Sean Renfree got hurt last week. Coach David Cutcliffe says Renfree is a game-time decision. So, Dorsey, can they beat Virginia with Anthony Boone at quarterback?
I think so. I mean, obviously, Sean Renfree is the best option they have at quarterback, but Anthony Boone came in last week when Renfree went down and led those guys to 2 scoring touchdowns. So I think if anybody can do it, he can do it. And obviously, you have a great receiver lined up outside in Connor Vernon.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute. Great Duke stat, by the way. The Blue Devils have converted 18 of their last 26 third downs, and that's with Renfree and Boone. They've been great. And whether it's been one of those 2 guys or Duke's other quarterback, yes, there's a third quarterback every defense worries about. At the goal line, Cutcliffe sends in the Phantom. And Dorsey, all he does is score touchdowns.
Yeah, Brandon Cornett. All he does is score touchdowns. Like you said, he comes in, he's got 16 touchdowns, and I think in 19 games. This guy comes in and gets it done. But let's take a look at Duke in the red zone. What they'll do here is they'll fake a quick dive play. And what you'll do is get the linebackers to suck up. And all you need to do is suck up for a second, and the quarterback can hit the receiver right behind the linebackers in between the safeties. Great red zone play because it puts the linebackers in a predicament. Who are you going to stop? Here, another play you'll see is just a simple read option. It puts the defensive end in a major predicament. If he follows the running back like he did on that play, the quarterback keeps it, runs in for a touchdown. The defensive end can't be right. If he wants to stop the quarterback, he's going to hand it off to the running back who's going to score a touchdown. So great play in the red zone. Teams haven't been able to stop it.
I'll tell you what, if I'm Sean Renfree, I gotta be a little perturbed that my man's taking away all his touchdowns when he's in the red zone. I wouldn't like that if he likes the statistics.
Yeah, Renfree's been great, but again, he is losing out on some of those touchdowns. Thanks to EA Sports for that, by the way. Duke has another dangerous weapon with 1 catch today. Connor Vernon will set the new ACC record for most career receptions. Right now, he's tied with former Clemson star Aaron Kelly. Vernon is 4th in conference history in receiving yards. Assuming he stays healthy, Vernon should break that record as well at some point this season. Because he's played at Duke, Vernon has kind of flown under the radar, but he's had an incredible year, incredible career as well. More ACC Kickoff Live next.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
I'm Jeff Fischel. Time now for another ACC Now and Then, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. In Saturday's last-second win over NC State, Miami's Stephen Morris broke the ACC record for most passing yards in a game with 566. Morris passed Rusty LaRue of Wake Forest, who had 545 yards in 1995, also against the Wolfpack. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner, only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
The ACC Digital Network, the ultimate video destination for ACC fans. Exclusive highlights, live streaming games, and original live programming, unique access to the student athletes of our time and the legendary voices of all time. Defining moments, personal stories, incredible analysis from authentic ACC sources, cutting-edge content from the leaders in the digital space. The ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday.
Where does a great night out get even better? At the new Ruby Tuesday with our steak and lobster dinner for only $14.99. We've combined sweet lobster, steakhouse sirloin, and our free garden bar. Hurry in. This perfect pairing ends soon. The new Ruby Tuesday.
We go live, Virginia Tech and North Carolina. The Hokies 7-1 against North Carolina since the Hokies joined the ACC. Last year, they barely held on, winning in Blacksburg 24-21. The Tar Heels are 3-0 this year at home. Kickoffs at 3 o'clock. Well, last year, Clemson's national title hopes died on an October Saturday against Georgia Tech. Remember this? The Tigers went into the game ranked 5th in the BCS. Tevin Washington was incredible, running for 176 yards, and the Yellow Jackets defense held a Clemson team that had scored 115 points in its previous 2 games to just 17 and forced 4 Tigers turnovers. Final 31-17 Georgia Tech. Dabo Swinney has not forgotten.
Just look at last year. I mean, heck, we were 8-0, 5th in the country, and fat and happy. And we go to Atlanta, and I think they were coming off of 2 losses last year, I think. I believe it was a similar situation, and and they beat us. We'll get their A game. We'll get the best they got, and our guys know that.
I think the parallel is they're ranked again. They got a good team. We had them at home last year, night game. Our crowd was great. Everybody was into it. They helped us. They turned the ball over some early, and we kind of got some momentum going and just kind of hung on and built on that. Certainly we'll have to play better than we've played this year on Saturday if we're going to have a chance to beat them.
Guys, in fact, Johnson says if they don't play better, there might not be enough lights on the scoreboard to keep up with Clemson. Dorsey, you're Paul Johnson right now. You've got to lead your team out of the wilderness. How does he do it?
It's going to be tough. Like he said, if the defense doesn't show up and play, they're going to put a lot of points on that board. I think what Paul has to do is just sit down, talk to his team, and go, listen, obviously we're disappointed. You lost 2 overtime games to ACC opponents. Then we go ahead and lay an egg to Middle Tennessee. But we still got a lot to play for. There's a bowl game to shoot for, but it has to start defensively in the front 7. Get those guys tackling better because they missed a ton of tackles last week, and then the secondary. Make sure those guys are all on the same page because there seems to be a lot of miscommunication back there where guys are just running wide open down the football field.
Al Groh cannot be happy of what he's seeing right now. I mean, Al Groh, he's a defensive guy. He has got to be disappointed right now.
The defensive coordinator has seen his team give up a lot of points these last couple of weeks. I will say this, Georgia Tech has won 4 of the last 5 meetings with Clemson, so it's not like the Yellow Jackets can't say we can't do this. Meanwhile, Clemson, hey, they get Sammy Watkins back. You know, this is week 6, Riley. We haven't really seen him make a big impact.
We haven't, and look, they've played 3 out of 5 games without him, and they've been just fine. DeAndre Hopkins has emerged as one of the elite receivers in the country, and don't get me wrong, having Sammy Watkins back is great for this offense. Just adds another threat to defenses, and they become a nightmare. But I don't think this offense hinges on Sammy Watkins playing or not playing. They've shown they've got enough weapons that they can get it done with or without, but they're obviously going to be happy to have him back. And Georgia Tech, they're just that team that bothers Clemson all the time. Every team's got one, and Georgia Tech is it.
How many points today?
I'm saying plus 70 at least.
At least. Yeah,
at least.
I think so. Clemson gets Watkins back, but Wake Forest has lost its #1 receiver, Michael Campanaro. He suffered a broken hand in last week's loss to Duke. Kelly, what's he saying about when he'll be back on the field?
Well, Jeff, he took to Twitter to tell us he could be back as soon as October 27th. Take a look at these 2 tweets. Good news, don't need surgery, might be back for Clemson, definitely will be back for BC. Guys, this one is a riot. Thinking about selling my car to buy a hyperbaric chamber. Gotta speed up the healing process. Wonder what my parents would do to me. Now, Jeff, I gotta call you out, buddy. Under that desk, you're nursing 2 broken toes. Gotta say, you would love some of that oxygen treatment, wouldn't you?
I'm fighting through the pain, yes. Just barely made it up to the desk today for the show.
Broken toe, broken hand playing football. It's the same.
Hey, someone try to do this job with 2 broken toes, please. By the way, so we lose Campanaro. Riley, you guys, Wake Forest all loses several players to the suspensions. What kind of impact does that have on Wake today against Maryland?
It was a dagger to hear that news. I mean, for this team that, especially you lose somebody on your offensive line in Frank Sousa, you lose DeAndre Martin, who essentially shares reps with Josh Harris, keeps him healthy and fresh. Bud Noel, your best corner, Daniel Mack. I mean, you're already a thin team, and you're coming off a tough loss to Duke, and you lose your star player, Mike Campanaro, who really he's the team's profile, in my opinion, with Tanner and Mike Campanaro. I just think they're going to be in disarray on offense today. It's unfortunate that these kind of things happen, but they got to learn how to deal with it because Maryland's got a good defense, and they can shut them down if they come to play.
It couldn't be worse timing, Dorsey. I mean, Maryland, Randy Edsall has built a very good defense.
He really has, and Randy Edsall is a defensive coach, so he knows how to get those guys right. But they're ranked 8th nationally, led by All-American defensive end Joe Villano. Linebacker Demetrius Hartfield also doing a great job of stopping people. These guys, we weren't talking about Florida State's defense. These are the guys we'll be talking about. They're first in the ACC on first down, which is great and important because you put guys in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, which makes it hard to make it first down. But think about what they did to Geno Smith in West Virginia. This he threw for like 1.5 miles last week.
Right.
And this is the only team really to slow him down so far this season.
Yeah, he threw for 300 yards against Maryland, but all of a sudden, as we see him pile up stats, we look at how good that 300-yard day was for that Maryland defense for them to hold him to that. All right, Stephen Morris also putting up big numbers as a quarterback, now #1 all-time in ACC history, 566 yards last week, a new conference record. Today, he tries to join some great Miami quarterbacks with a win over Notre Dame. The Canes lead the Coastal. Is this finally the year a team other than Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech win it? Riley and Dorsey, the great debate, next.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance Event.
I'm Jeff Fischel. Time now for another ACC Now and Then, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. In Saturday's last-second win over NC State, Miami's Stephen Morris broke the ACC record for most passing yards in a game with 566. Morris passed Rusty LaRue of Wake Forest, who had 545 yards in 1995, also against the Wolfpack. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner, only $14.99 for a limited time.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh, whoa.
Hello?
Yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
That was just a little too easy, wasn't it? 36 straight. That's the top ground attack in America, stuffed by the Hurricanes. James for the end zone. Miami wins. One of the great comebacks in Miami history.
Morris is on target and on time and on fire. In the humidity, a strike. The
Touchdown Miami. Morris to Scott. For Miami. And deep ball again. Caught. Touchdown Miami. Philip Dorsey. Stephen Morris has thrown for 566 yards today.
Really proud of our guys to come out of here with a win. Now we're off to South Bend.
2 great comebacks, and now it's Miami and Notre Dame at Soldier Field in Chicago. Welcome back to ACC Kickoff Live. I'm Jeff Fischel with Dorsey Levens and Riley Skinner. This rivalry a generation ago was one of the most intense in college football. Both teams, year in, year out, competing for a national title. Dorsey, I know when you chose to go to Notre Dame, those were the glory years for this rivalry. 87-89, the winner would win the national title. What do you remember about those games?
I remember just being a really exciting time, the build-up leading up to it. It was a big game the year before. Notre Dame beat Miami, went on to win the national championship. But the biggest thing, especially being on campus, everybody walking around with the T-shirts that said Catholics versus convicts. It was good guys versus bad guys. Right. Touchdown Jesus versus Satan. It was just a lot of build-up and a lot of hype, a lot of hate between the teams. We didn't like them, they didn't like us because of the perception, the public perception of both teams. It was just a great time. That was one of the major reasons why I went to Notre Dame. I wanted to be a part of that rivalry.
Riley, I know you remember those.
No, I can't say
but that's the case today, right? Both teams today, these guys don't remember. That doesn't have an impact, though, that big emotional rivalry from years ago. Does it have an impact today?
Well, yeah, because you hear about it all week. You hear about the history and the rivalry, and you can't help but get excited and get into it. And look, with Notre Dame starting to play in the ACC now, it's going to be. I think that rivalry is just going to be, reunited, and it's really fun that it's starting today in Soldier Field on a big stage, and both teams are coming in hot.
Yeah, the Canes averaging 36 points a game. Meanwhile, the defense, though, giving up nearly 500 yards a game. Remember, former player Dan Cilio called out the D on his radio show. You are going to be held accountable. Riley, Miami's defense might still be a work in progress. Can Notre Dame, though, score? Notre Dame's offense hasn't been great.
They haven't, and if there's a game that Miami needs to step up, I feel like we've been beating a dead horse talking about the defense, but they're continuing to give up points every week. I mean, over 30 points a game they're allowing. The thing is, I don't see Miami's offense scoring 40-plus points like they have been against this Notre Dame defense. So their Miami defense has got to step up if they want a chance to win this game. And Notre Dame, they're quarterback carousel with Tommy Rees and Everett Golson. When you have 2 quarterbacks, I feel like you have no quarterback.
Yeah. All right, well, let's break this down game by the numbers. First up, the number, 24. The 2 programs have met 24 times. Notre Dame holding the series edge with 16 wins. Next up, the number is 41. Notre Dame comes into this matchup ranked 9th. Miami has 41 wins all time against AP top 10 teams and 104 wins against top 25 teams. Miami's last win against a top 10 team, 2009 against Oklahoma. How about the number 5? Miami has won 5 of the last 7 meetings with the Irish. The Hurricanes' last win in the series came back in 1989 when they ended Notre Dame's 23-game win streak. And our final number, 3. With Miami's win over NC State, the Hurricanes have their first 3-game winning streak in the Al Golden era, and the first since 2009. If the U can pull off the upset tonight, it will be their first 4-game winning streak since 2008. Another defense that struggled surprisingly is Virginia Tech. So much veteran experience, But the Hokies gave up over 500 yards in a loss to Pitt, and then this happened last week. Cardinals sin, final seconds against Cincinnati, leading 24-20. Somehow, Bearcats wide receiver Damon Julian gets behind the Hokies secondary. 39-yard touchdown, 13 seconds left. Even a couple of days later, Virginia Tech defensive coordinator Bud Foster was still fired up.
You tell me every play, and I'll tell you exactly how it worked out. It was either a missed tackle by Manning, or he gave up inside leverage, or we turned a guy loose in man-to-man coverage and went 75 yards for a touchdown. Or the last play, as I said, we couldn't be in a better coverage. That guy should have been fair catching the ball. You don't think we're going to plan on executing right there? We've been doing it all day.
So you were pretty confident?
Yeah, pretty confident, yeah. You guys are the ones that said we were going to be a great defense. I said we had a chance to be a good defense. That's what I said at the beginning of the year. We had a chance. We got a whole new secondary. I don't care who was at the boundary corner this weekend. They'd attack that. We're playing a lot of man. That's a short side of the field. I don't care. You could have put D'Angelo Hall over there. They'd done the same thing.
Ooh, man, Bud Foster was steaming hot. Dorsey, is there any excuse for that kind of breakdown?
No, there's not. I mean, at the last play of the game, the one thing you teach your guys is don't let anybody get behind you, and they broke the cardinal rule and let a guy get behind. Don't let a guy get behind you and bat the ball down. Don't go for an interception.
God, he don't like to lose.
No.
I think he might have lost a couple minutes of sleep after that game.
Yeah.
And, of course, you know, they have made some shuffling changes in the secondary, but still, that's a shocker from a Bud Foster D. And today, taking on Bryn Renner, of course, big yards. You've seen Bryn Renner go. You must be thinking he'll have a big game today.
I think so. I think he's getting more and more comfortable like we talked about. But this Virginia Tech secondary has been very vulnerable, surprisingly. And I think if Bryn Renner and Giovanni Bernard get on the same page, get off to a fast start, it could be another tough day for that Hokie defense. Unfortunately, I don't want to be in that room with Bud Foster if they have a long day again. But I think if UNC plays and they fire on all cylinders, they could get this win.
We'll get your predictions on that game, guys, coming up. Now, like the rest of the country, we're following the presidential race and the debates. So we've been inspired to have debates each week leading up to the election. This week, if Big Bird has his football scholarship taken away, where should he transfer to? No, that's not it. The debate, the crazy coastal, Virginia Tech or Georgia Tech. They've won it every year. Will that continue this year? Candidate Levens, who will win the coastal and why? You have 30 seconds.
It will not be Georgia Tech. It will not be Virginia Tech. It will be the University of Miami. They're 3-0 in the ACC. Stephen Morris continues to improve week in and week out. All they have to do is beat Virginia. Everybody else on their schedule is beatable, and they play them at home. They have 2 road games left in the ACC against Duke and Virginia. They can win both of those games. Miami is my choice to win the Coastal Division this year.
Powerful arguments, candidate Skinner. What do you say?
You say they do only have 2 home games, or they only have 2 away games, but North Carolina, Florida State, Virginia Tech all in a row. I don't think they're going to win all those. I'm going Virginia Tech. I know they struggled against the Big East, but they still haven't lost in conference. And look over the years. 8 years running, 10 or more wins. That's an unbelievable streak. I think down in the stretch, it's going to come to veteran coaching. And Bud Foster, after seeing that interview, he's going to get that defense to play the way they should. I say Virginia Tech.
You know, it's interesting. You talked about having 10-win seasons previous years. Let's focus on the present here. You Republicans always want to focus on what happened way back in the day. Well, you got us in an economic crisis is what you did. And the same thing is going to stand for here. Miami wins this hands down.
How do you say that when Miami, look, they put up a lot of points. They're averaging over 33 points a game they're giving up, and they're about to go play Virginia Tech, Florida State. There's no way they're going to continue to put up over 40 points in order to get that win. I just do not see it happening. They're having a good stretch, but I don't think it's sustainable.
It's simple math. I don't know why you guys struggle with arithmetic. They score over 40. They allow about 33. 40 is greater than 33,
you're telling me they're going to score over 40 against Florida State and Virginia Tech?
Well, I'm not a psychic. If I was a psychic, I wouldn't be here.
All right, candidates, I'm going to be like the Jim Lehrer role and cut you guys off every once in a long while. Let's talk about some other teams you guys aren't talking about. Why not talk about, sure, North Carolina's not eligible to win the division, but Riley, couldn't you make a case that they could? Couldn't they end up with the best record?
Well, they could, but it's a moot point. They can't, like you said, they can't win it, so there's no really point to talk about it. The only thing they could do, though, is play spoiler. That I think they can do. They've got Virginia Tech and Miami this week and next week. I think they could fire on all cylinders, get a couple, surprise plays early on against these teams, and play the spoiler. Because I do think it's going to be Virginia Tech or Miami. I think Virginia Tech. But UNC can play spoiler.
I totally agree with Riley on this one. I mean, they can play spoiler, but at the end of the day, they have nothing to fight for. So I think if they have some bumps in the road later on down the season, they're kind of going to shut it down a little bit because there's nothing to play for.
All right, candidate Skinner, what about a Duke team that is 4-1? Why not the Blue Devils?
Oh, man. You know what? They haven't been talked about in this race for so long, it's hard to put them in the conversation. But to be honest, you look at the rest of their schedule, it is lethal. Georgia Tech, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. Look, they've won great. I am sold on Coach Cliff. He's got them going in the right direction, believing they can win. But you look at the rest of the schedule, it is brutal, and I don't see them getting it.
I will say this, don't you think, Dorsey, if Duke wins today and North Carolina beats Virginia Tech, wouldn't it be a case where you might expect Duke to beat Virginia Tech next week?
Ooh, that's a big task. I have to agree with Riley. You know, the schedule down the line is just too tough. It's just brutal. That's the bad news. The good news is basketball season's right around the corner.
Cheap shot.
Oh,
Cheap
yeah.
shot.
All right. Another team we haven't discussed, candidate Levens, Virginia. Could they play a role in this with Phillip Sims now in charge?
You know, they could, but I think the jury's still out. We want to see what Phillip Sims does as a full-time starter. You know, I think it's kind of easy to come in off the bench as a backup, see what the other guy did wrong, and then don't make those same mistakes. When you're the full-time guy, it's a different boat. So let's see if he can get that boat to sail and get some wins.
I don't think Virginia can do it because I think they're average on both sides of the ball. They're not bad, but they're not great on one side or the other. Their offense that they thought was kind of going to lead this team has been stagnant. They're already replacing the quarterback. And I just think they're not good enough to go into an elite team and beat them consistently throughout the rest of the season. I don't see Virginia doing it.
Candidates, 15 seconds to make your final arguments. Candidate Levens first.
My final argument about Miami winning the Coastal Division, I think it's a no-brainer. Stephen Morris, over 1,000 yards passed in the last 2 weeks, 1,260 total yards, first in all of college football, Riley, not just the ACC. Miami's going to win the Coastal.
It's going to – can I have my time now?
Skinner, please, take your time.
Miami's defense is going to keep them out of this race. Virginia Tech, you're going to see Beamer Ball, Frank Beamer, Bud Foster, coaching experience down in the fourth quarter of the game and the stretch of the season, and then the defense steps up and starts playing. Virginia Tech, I won't say 10 wins, but 9 wins, and they get the conference.
I need to give you guys a little red light because I said 15 seconds. You guys definitely went over. It got pretty intense, right? Like having Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey go at it. Did you guys see that this week? American Idol? All right, K-Nash Sports. Kelly, what are ACC fans saying on Facebook? Who will win this thing?
Well, guys, before I give you these shocking Facebook results, I got to address this debate. Now, Dorsey, Riley, you never answered Jeff. Where does Big Bird go?
That's a good question.
As long as he stays in the ACC, right?
We'll
we asked fans on Facebook.com/the ACC, will a team other than Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech take home the Coastal Division crown? And guess what? 65% yes. Riley, you come back into town already butting heads with the fans.
Well, what do I say? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's my argument.
He's sticking with the Hokies.
I'm sticking with the Hokies.
All right. Well, we're also keeping track of E.J. Manuel's Heisman hopes. West Virginia, Geno Smith keeps putting up eye-popping numbers. So what does Manuel have to do to build up his Heisman resume? We have some ideas next.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
I'm Jeff Fischel. Time now for another ACC Now and Then, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. In Saturday's last-second win over NC State, Miami's Stephen Morris broke the ACC record for most passing yards in a game with 566. Morris passed Rusty LaRue of Wake Forest, who had 545 yards in 1995, also against the Wolfpack. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner, only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
The ACC Digital Network, the ultimate video destination for ACC fans. Exclusive highlights, live streaming games, and original live programming, unique access to the student athletes of our time and the legendary voices of all time. Defining moments, personal stories, incredible analysis from authentic ACC sources, cutting-edge content from the leaders in the digital space. The ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday.
Where does a great night out get even better? At the new Ruby Tuesday with our steak and lobster dinner for only $14.99. We've combined sweet lobster, steakhouse sirloin, and our free garden bar. Hurry in. This perfect pairing ends soon. The new Ruby Tuesday.
You're looking live at Chapel Hill. It's whiteout day for North Carolina today. The Tar Heels taking on Virginia Tech. A great battle we're expecting there. That one's coming up at 3 o'clock. Check your local listings for that one. Several ACC players are among the nation's leaders. Stephen Morris in this year of the quarterback in the ACC with 10 returning starting quarterbacks. Here's Morris. He had to battle just to win the starting job. Now he's fourth in all of college football in passing yards. And how about Luke Hopkins? Played second fiddle to Sammy Watkins last year, but with Watkins missing 3 games this season, Hopkins is showing why defenses need to worry about him just as much. Fourth in receiving yards. Similar situation for Alex Amadon. BC's leading returning receiver, Bobby Swigert, missed several games. Amadon asserted himself. He's now averaging 140 yards a game, fourth in the FBS. The next generation of Beamer ball, Kyshawn Jarrett, third in the country in punt return yardage. He returned 194 yards for a touchdown against Pitt. Georgia Tech QB Tevin Washington has 11 rushing touchdowns. That's in 5 games. He's fourth in college football in scoring. And BC coach Frank Spaziani said no one could replace Luke Kuechly. He called him the human eraser. How about Nick Clancy? He's number 1 in college football in solo tackles and second in total tackles. Clancy isn't alone at BC. Riley, the Eagles linebackers, they're a 3-headed monster.
It's going to be called linebacker U.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Nick Clancy, who's got 53 tackles leading the nation, but then you've also got Kevin Pierre-Louis and Steele DeVito, who are top 6 in the ACC, all have tremendous ability at the linebacker position. They really back that defensive line up, and it's impressive the way they've been able to replace Luke Kuechly, because I was with Coach. I didn't think he could be replaced.
Dorsey, this is now a line of linebackers that are making a big impact at BC.
It really is. If you look all the way back to Mark Herzlich and then last year Luke Kuechly, it's just a new linebacker university. You think they're taking over for Penn State. I was recruited by Penn State as a linebacker, and the reason I didn't go there is because I didn't want to play linebacker. I wanted to play running back. But I think now Boston College is a place for linebackers to go.
It has been an impressive run the last few years for Coach Spaziani's linebacking core. Today, that team takes on Army. They have to battle that triple option. Next week, Boston College faces E.J. Manuel and Florida State. Manuel kept the Heisman hype going with a solid performance last week against South Florida. The problem is West Virginia's Geno Smith had such a huge day against Baylor. Some of those engineers down at Georgia Tech, I think, are still doing the math on that game. E.J. completing 73% of his passes this year, but Smith 83% and a 20-0 touchdown to interception ratio. All right, guys. Riley, is there anything E.J. Manuel can do to close the gap in the Heisman race?
I think you just got to keep winning games like he's doing and be clutch in the fourth quarter. Prove that without him on the field, the team would be in disarray, because that's really the definition of the Heisman, the most valuable player. But look, and if you look at statistics with Geno Smith, it is unbelievable what he's doing. But you also got to look, E.J. Manuel, he's got one of the best defenses in the country. In terms of play calling, they don't have to be as aggressive on offense, and it's a whole different role that he has to play than Geno Smith. So it's hard to look statistic-wise. I just think he needs to keep winning games, show that he's a leader, and he'll still be in the conversation.
You talk about the wins. Dorsey, how much of this race, the Heisman race, depends on how well Florida State and West Virginia do?
I think it's very important. I think if you continue winning, you continue to climb in the polls, and the higher you are ranked, the more attention you get nationally on all the sports talk shows and sports talk radio. If you're winning, you're going to be in the primetime football games at 8 o'clock when all the people are watching. I think at some point, sometimes the best player doesn't always win. It's the most popular player, and the most popular player is the guy who's on TV all the time at the right time, and that could be Geno Smith.
We're talking about the wins. If going undefeated is a factor in the Heisman race, here's a look at the remaining big games for both quarterbacks. Manuel, 3 tough conference road games, then closing the regular season against a Florida team that also has national title hopes. Smith at Texas tonight. Then in 2 weeks, K-State and Colin Klein, who's also a Heisman contender, and November games against TCU and Oklahoma. Football schedules were a big topic around the ACC this week. The conference announced it was scrapping plans for a 9-game conference schedule. Commissioner John Swofford says staying at 8 games makes the most sense.
Well, I think the first thing started with the fact that Notre Dame will be playing 5 games a year against Atlantic Coast Conference competition. And then when you couple that with considering some of the non-conference commitments, rivalry games, such as Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Florida, Clemson, South Carolina, we felt like we needed more flexibility from a non-conference standpoint. So I think it's a very positive decision.
Dorsey, they stay with 8 games. It could mean potentially a better non-conference matchup, right? Instead of potentially having a conference game where you know someone's going to lose a game.
Yeah, I think so. And the most important thing, like you talked about, was just keeping the rivalries that are non-conference that everybody wants to see. But I can't help but think a lot of this is a reaction to Notre Dame coming in and only playing 5 conference games. So now everybody has the flexibility to play other non-conference games like Notre Dame.
Riley, we talked to the coaches this summer. They did not like the idea of 9 conference games.
No, they didn't. And I like that we're staying with 8 games, though. I think it keeps it consistent of what they've been doing. I really think the coaches were the ones that were driving this. They wanted to keep, the 8 conference games, not another, because it's just – I think it depends on who you talk to, but some coaches like them, some don't. But I think this is a good middle ground in keeping the 8 games.
But imagine a Florida State team playing 9 conference games, playing Florida, playing Notre Dame all in the same year. That's a brutal schedule, and I think that's what they were trying to avoid. Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Riley and Dorsey have shared their knowledge. Now it's time to find out who they're predicting, who they're picking, and find out if they have any better predictions than our fans do.
Call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design. We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side rebuild. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, video, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance Event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance Event.
I'm Jeff Fischel. Time now for another ACC Now and Then, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. In Saturday's last-second win over NC State, Miami's Stephen Morris broke the ACC record for most passing yards in a game with 566. Morris passed Rusty LaRue of Wake Forest, who had 545 yards in 1995, also against the Wolfpack. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner only $14.99 for a limited time.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh, whoa.
Hello?
Yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
One more live look at Kenan Memorial Stadium in Chapel Hill. Today, as I mentioned before, you see the white jerseys, the white helmets. It's the whiteout game versus Virginia Tech. Tar Heels fans enjoying this. It's the first time they've seen the white helmets since the 1960s. Kickoff in about 40 minutes on the ACC Network.
Another college football season is back. Touchdown! What a catch! Thomas wants the lead, has a man open! Touchdown! Pass deflected into the hands of Diggs for a touchdown. The catch is made. Jake McGee in a jump ball. He's got it. What a block! And Jared's going to take it all the way. Another leveling block from the Virginia Tech special teams. still keeps his feet, still moving, touchdown! He keeps his footing by putting his hand on the ground, and now it's his wheels on the ground.
Here in Miami, it's the Duke Johnson show.
Down the sideline. Goodbye, Orwin Smith. Touchdown, Tech.
Tack him on with a touchdown. Sammy Watkins, a 52-yard pass. Deep man, got him. Touchdown, NC State. Underwood always up to no good. Reddick beats it to Amendola, and 4th and 1 becomes a touchdown. Can you say flea flicker? In hockey, you get an assist if you were Giovanni Bernard. Wide open, unbelievable touchdown, Miami. You're kidding me. Far side, touchdown, and the Noles lead for the first time tonight. James for the end zone, Miami wins. One of the great comebacks in Miami history.
Great stuff from the month of September, but how have these guys done predicting it would happen? Dorsey, 6-4. Riley, 4-6. The face he's making right now is pain. He knows 4-6 is not a solid start to the season. The fans, 5-5, holding their own at 500. All right, let's not waste any time. Let's find out what they're doing and who they're picking today. 5 conference games today. Virginia Tech at North Carolina. Dorsey, who do you like?
I like North Carolina. They're playing in Chapel Hill. Bryn Renner's playing well. Gio Bernard is healthy, and Bud Foster's defense doesn't look like Bud Foster's defense.
I think it's going to look like Bud Foster's defense this week. I'm going Virginia Tech. I'm making a run. I need to get my win back up on that column.
Good sure do. 4-6 so far. I think
pretty.
If I keep saying it, you're just going to keep wincing. It's like the Riley face is going to. We're going to change the picture on there.
Yeah, I know. I'll be sad.
Today. Virginia and Duke. Duke 4-1. Dorsey, do they go to 5-1?
No, they do not. I think Phillip Sims is going to come in, lead that team to victory. Duke, the schedule gets tough. I think they go downhill from here.
I got faith in Anthony Boone. If he has to step in for Sean Renfrey, I think Duke's believing. I think they've got across that kind of threshold that they think they can get to a bowl game. If not, make a run for the Coastal. I'm going Duke.
Love seeing you guys disagree on this game. Another interesting one, Wake versus Maryland. Wake Forest, of course, has to deal with some shortage on their too deep today. Maryland coming off a bye week, their first conference game. Who wins, Dorsey?
I like Maryland for a couple of reasons. One, they're coming off the bye week, but two, their defense is playing extremely well. And I picked them before the Wake Forest players got suspended. So now I feel really good about my pick.
I'm going to disagree again. I'm going with Wake. I know they're kind of behind the 8 ball with the loss of these players. I put this game on Tanner Price. If he's the quarterback that's going to, lead this team to a number of bowl games, he's got to step up right now when they're in dire need of a playmaker. I put it on him. I think he gets it done.
We talked Georgia Tech and Clemson earlier. The Yellow Jackets have won 4 of 5. Can they do it again today?
I tell you what, last year when Georgia Tech beat Clemson, they were coming off 2 straight losses. I don't think it's going to happen this time. No, I'm going to go with Clemson. I think they have too much offensive firepower, and Georgia Tech's defense is struggling.
We can finally agree now. I'm going Clemson as well. They get Sammy Watkins back, but Georgia Tech is just kind of in disarray right now. And I think they're just emotionally on such a low after that beatdown by Middle Tennessee. I don't see them getting up for this kind of game.
Does anyone want to call the upset? Florida State and NC State. Dorsey.
Absolutely not. I think NC State's offensive line is too beat up, and Florida State's defense is going to wreak havoc on Mike Glennon. On the flip side of that, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Florida State's offense.
I don't think so either. What we've seen out of NC State's secondary is so surprising with David Amerson just getting torched last week. I think he gave up 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think Florida State exploits them again, and Florida State gets the win.
Okay, now we know who these guys are picking. Let's find out who the fans are picking. Kelly Nash, what are they saying on Facebook about these games?
That's right. We're overwhelmingly fans picked Florida State and Clemson to win their ball games. They also picked Maryland, Duke, and this one was a little closer. They picked Virginia Tech 58% over UNC. Now, Riley, just when I thought you couldn't get any, you totally redeem yourself, buddy. This one's coming for you. I've waited 2 weeks for this. Bam!
Nice. And you threw out a little Dumb and Dumber quote. I like it.
What's the tally now on the fist bumps? Where are we with that?
I think I win in that column. You're beating me in the picks.
That's true. That's right. That's your second one.
That's
Dorsey
right.
still only has 1. All right, Kelly.
Appreciate it, Kel.
Dorsey wants another one. And,
I got the best record, though, so I'm cool with that.
I still haven't gotten a fist bump, have I? I
not.
don't think so. All right. One last look at the Saturday schedule. BC and Army just minutes away. The Tar Heels haven't given up a touchdown in 10 quarters. Duke trying to go 5-1, and Connor Vernon, of course, one catch from history. Phillip Sims, his first start for the Cavs. Georgia Tech and Clemson, the Yellow Jackets have won 4 of their last 5, as I've mentioned. Maryland's ACC lid lifter at home versus Wake. The rivalry renewed, Miami and Notre Dame. And Florida State tries to take another step forward toward perfection against NC State. Guys, give me the one player you think makes a big difference today. Any game, pick a game. Dorsey, give me a guy.
I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins. He's been in the witness protection program since the season started. I want to see him come out and have a big game. I think today is the day.
I go E.J. Manuel. He continues to keep his name in that Heisman race. He has a big day against a struggling NC State defense.
All right, guys, that is fantastic stuff today. A fantastic hour on ACC Kickoff Live. Remember, for all the best moments from every ACC game today, the best highlights, and the best breakdown from these two guys all day long here on the ACC Digital Network. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at the ACCDN. With Dorsey Levens, Riley Skinner, I'm Jeff Fischel. Thanks for watching us on the ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday.